All right. So one of the realities is your customers are very visual. And so your customers, whether they're browsers or they're buyers, could have a huge impact on what they're thinking when they're looking at your listing. And part of that could be your infographics that you have. So to share some best practices on infographics, I'm super excited to have on Anthony Cofrancesco from PickFu to talk about things you can apply to have better infographics and get better conversion rates on your listings. So Anthony, take it away.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much. Everyone, I'm going to jump right in and share some slides here. This is going to be best practices for infographics. I'm going to drill right in through here. Infographics are really cool, right? You have all of these additional secondary images that you can have beyond your main image. And so humans, like Kevin was saying earlier, are very visual, right? When your eyeballs are open, your brain is just a giant graphics processor, and it's processing that visual information, and it's helping that customer to make decisions of whether they're going to buy the product or they're going to bounce. Obviously, we don't want them to bounce. And so having a good infographic strategy, having a good secondary image strategy, all comes down to your ability to keep people clicking through your image gallery, to absorb as much information as possible, and to check off the little boxes in their head about whether or not they're going to want to buy the product or if they're going to go to a competitor's and buy that product. So the biggest tip that I can give with infographics, and we've seen this time and time again, is something that I call the 5-second test. And so basically what the 5-second test is you're going to take your infographic and you're going to show it to someone potentially in your family, someone who doesn't have any idea what the product is. And you're going to say, okay, what is the purpose of this graphic, right? What's the purpose of this image? You're going to show it to them for 5 seconds, then you're going to take it away. And if they are telling you something that's vastly different from what you think the purpose of that message is, then there's a very good chance that the person who's shopping on Amazon is going to get it wrong as well. One of the biggest misconceptions I see with people shopping, or that sellers have about their customers shopping on Amazon, is that when someone's shopping, they are in this captivated, distracted, free environment. And that's just not the reality. When people are shopping, the phone is going off, the dog is barking, the kids are running around in the background. And so you have a very minimal amount of time to convey the correct information, and you need to do this very effectively. And so the interesting thing so what we've done here is for this 5-second test, I've gotten 3 different versions, or actually 4 different versions of each of these infographics. And all of these infographics are trying to do the exact same thing. When I've run a PickFu test across each of these, it's very interesting to analyze the results and to see, okay, all of these graphics are trying to do the exact same thing, but some do it in a more visually appealing way, and some do it in a way that's more succinct, more easy to digest, and more easy to understand. And so the biggest thing that we'll notice with the 5-second test is that things that are distracting, like the water coming out, the non-symmetry between the 2 sides of the image, really can be a big factor. And so again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out, okay, which one of these is going to be the most clear, the most easy for the brain to digest, that this water bottle is going to work for both cold and warm temperatures, and about the amount of time that it's going to actually stay that cold or warm. Another tip here is that you should have contextual information. Contextual information allows the image to perform without any text, but text is going to take it to the next level. And so if I were to show someone this image on the left-hand side and say, what's the point of it? They're probably going to get the idea very quickly that, okay, you can eat more of these pop chips versus fried potato chips. But if I compare it to the option on the right, which literally tells me both piles have the same amount of sugar, and it's showing me I can get way more of these Sour Blast Buddies versus, comparing it obviously to Sour Patch Kids, this is a very good visual representation that I can show this to someone, and in much less than 5 seconds, they're going to get the point of that image. This is something when I first started selling on Amazon that used to be really hot, these competitor comparison charts. Again, think about the 5-second test. Think about what the brain is easily going to be able to digest. I think many customers on Amazon have gotten smart to realize that the brand being shown is going to get all check boxes, and then the competitors are going to have all of these X's. And so what we recommend doing, and we've tested this over and over again, is pick one singular point and make that the focus of the infographic. So for this phone holder, it's showing you that this phone holder is not going to block your view versus an ordinary phone holder will block your view, right? This is very easy to digest. Someone can see it for much less than 5 seconds, and it's clear about why your product is better than your competitors versus this. It might be not as genuine, and it might be a little bit more confusing. Another real big infographic that a lot of people are going to put in their secondary image is a sizing infographic, something that gives an idea for how big the product is. When you are doing this, we've tested this again over and over again with PickFu, always give a visual reference point for sizing infographics. And the reason why is that the human brain doesn't think in terms of dimensions. It thinks in terms of relation to other objects. So if I say, how big is 0.4 inches? I don't know, maybe you can do it with your fingers, but now it's giving you a very clear idea for this USB extender. Oh, this is something I could fit inside my hand. Or for this, where it's showing you that the cable is 2 feet long. How big is 2 feet? It doesn't really matter. What this is showing me is that, oh, well, even if I have this super big desk that's like 3 or 4 times the width of my monitor, it's going to be able to reach to the end of that desk, right? What's a practical application that's going to allow the person to visualize the length of the cable? This is a really helpful tip to get people to get all the way through your image gallery. So whether you have 7 images, in some scenarios, you actually have more than 7 images. You don't want someone to just get to your first image, your second image, and then bounce, right? You want them to click through the entire thing like it's a slideshow, because the more that they see about your product, the more that they're going to learn about the product and the higher probability they're going to convert. And so a great way to do this is to apply branding themes consistently across your image gallery. So you can see how here, they're not just slapping their logo, they're putting their brand colors, and they're kind of drawing you along one important message per infographic, and they're going to do that for the entire image set so that you click through and you absorb the important information very quickly. Most people know that the majority of people shopping on Amazon are going to be doing so through a mobile device. We've all heard about a mobile-friendly image, which just means something that you can view on your phone and it's going to be clear. What I recommend is shooting for an ultra mobile-friendly image. And so these, again, are so simple. They're so easy to digest. They're supposed to be quick and easy so that people can very quickly see it, they can digest it, and they click to the next image, click to the next image. You want them to get through your entire image gallery, and then after that, scroll down and read your A+. Think about, too, if you have these product anatomy graphics, what we see a lot of the time is people will just say, here's what the feature of the product is, but they don't explain why it matters. And so think about, if you're doing an anatomy graphic, think about the feature and think about why it matters. So the flathead hose is great for hard to reach areas. The extension tube is for underseats, cracks, and crevices. Our recommendation too is that if you're pointing to a feature or a part of the product and it doesn't matter, or there's nothing that you can say about it, then don't highlight it in the anatomy graphic. Focus on the points that have a distinguishable factor about them, why people actually should care. Another thing that really helps in terms of conversion is if you have a product that works in multiple scenarios, allow the customer to visualize those scenarios in action. That way, if they're seeing this posture corrector, they can very easily attribute and say, oh, I'm going to use this while studying. I'm going to use this while I'm in the office. This product must be created for me. Let me go and add it to the cart. So this is really very easy to set up. You can also do this, just have your creative team very easily set up and can increase your conversion rate by adding one of the images to your secondary image that is relevant to a holiday or something that's going on. So this is obviously an infographic showing this car vacuum as a great gift during Christmas. And Burt's Bees has a very simple graphic, keep balm and mask on. So just a little nod to COVID-19. And then I think this is the last tip before we get into some very quick strategies. Amazon is not really keen, and it's clearly against their terms of service to put in product reviews as part of your secondary image gallery. What we have seen work quite well, and that people seem to actually enjoy when we've tested these, is don't actually put in the whole review. It's always going to be questioned. When we actually test those on PickFu, a lot of people wonder, is this Amazon verified 5-star review? Is this even real? And so something that you can actually do is show the product itself, put a little 5-star icon, and then reinforce what the features of the product are that could potentially come up in a product review. So for this fish oil, you're just saying, love the taste, no stinky breath, bottle lasts forever. And that way you're not highlighting a singular review. You're not saying this is like, Kevin S. No one knows, unless they're watching this show, they might not know who Kevin S. is. And so that's just extra additional information that doesn't really help to convey the features of the product. This is doing it in a much more succinct way and a little bit less risky. So the thing that I'll recommend is when you're going through and you're optimizing your secondary images, We do this at PickFood, and we call it progressive visual testing. And basically what you want to do is you want to look at every single element in the image and you want to ask yourself, why is this there? What could be changed to make this messaging clearer or more smooth? And so the whole concept of what we call progressive image testing is like getting an eye exam, right? And so when you sit down in front of the eye doctor, they're going to bring this machine in front of your face and they're going to start asking you, okay, which image is more clear, right? Is it option A or is it option B? Right. And these are things that you're going to do. You're going to go through with your creative team. And you're going to kind of make these tweaks. You're going to make these changes the same way the optometrist would change the headset. So they're going to say option A or option B, right? Option B. And they're going to say again, okay, make some changes. Option A, option B, okay, option B. And then sometimes they're going to say, okay, is it option A or option B? And you say, I actually don't remember. Can you show me option A again? They're pretty close, right? Option A, option B. And what happened in this scenario is it actually doesn't get more clear. You make a change and it's more confusing. It's not as good, right? So this one actually gets darker. Option A is actually the more clear image. So you keep going, option A, option B, option A, option B, until eventually you end up at the final 20/20 perfect vision. But what the optometrist is almost always going to do is they're going to say, well, let me show you where you started off, right? And this is actually where we started off in this example. And so the whole thing about optimizing your infographics and optimizing your secondary images is it's about these marginal gains. And sometimes when you're making the tweaks to your main image, to your secondary images, they're going to be so insignificant that you can't even tell the difference. But when you compare it to what you started with, then you're going to start to do things like, oh my goodness, I've been blind the whole time. And so we did an example with Thrasio around their main image and around their product packaging, where they started off, and you can watch our talk on product packaging as well. They started off with this product packaging when they acquired that brand at $2 million. They changed the product packaging and grew that brand to $20 million. And so all this was done by saying, okay, what can we change? What can we modify? What can we be very critical about what the customer is seeing and how can we end up with our end goal of 20/20 vision, or in the e-commerce world, how can we have our end goal? What can we tweak on what the customer is seeing to end up with an ideally 100% conversion rate? Probably doesn't exist, but a really, really high conversion rate. And so that's what we'll say about infographics. Just keep trimming away, keep making marginal improvements, and think about the clarity of messaging. I will recommend you use the code MAXECOM, or you can go to pickfood.com/MAXECOM and stick around for the next video. You can click it, I guess, probably above, and we're going to do a live breakdown with PickFood about how you can actually test infographics, and we'll do a real world example.
That was awesome. Thanks so much, Anthony.
Cool, cool.